professionally, and I was like, oh, I didn't believe I was good looking.
You were seduced, basically.
Yeah, I was seduced. Come and see me. So, I went to see him, gave me a dress. And he said, do you mind getting undressed?
Wow.
Yeah. In 30 seconds, she's gone.
She asked you to marry her.
For one second, she's there, sitting where you are, and I'm holding her hand, and she's alive, and then a few seconds later, she's dead.
What did you had in your soul and in your brain, and how did you prepare yourself for this procedure?
Thinking about it, so even in 10 years and 20 years, if someone wants me to stand in front of the camera or video and pay me, why not?
Today's guest is Hugo Woddis. For 35 years, he has been one of the most demanded male model in a global fashion world, represented by 20 top model agencies. He is also an actor, a DJ, a triathlon and fitness coach, and a deeply grounded soul. Today, we are going to talk about not only the image, but the man, the human, the soul. Hugo, hi.
Hi.
Thank you for being here today.
My pleasure.
Could you please tell about your rituals? How do you keep yourself in such an amazing shape? And do you have any beauty rituals?
Well, thank you for saying that. I'm in amazing shape. That's very kind. I've always been into fitness. So I've always done sport or exercise all my life. So I think that's where it all comes from. If that's what you're referring to, is the physical.
Yes, I am.
And actually, getting into modeling, I basically had to, pay attention to how I looked. Not by being totally vain, but knowing that I'm being judged on how I look, and I needed to fit the clothes and look good. So my ritual has always been to try and do some kind of sport, exercise, fitness, workout all my life at some point. And it's changed throughout my life depending on what I'm doing.
That's nice. And what about the beauty self-care rituals? Are there any secrets?
No.
Okay.
I didn't put so much attention on that. It was more attention on being healthy and fit. And I think if you're healthy and fit, and therefore I was paying attention to what I ate, a few things, the usual thing that people pay attention, exercise, eating, nutrition, so on. And as I've gone through life, I've learned much more. I wish I knew what I know now 35 years ago. Yeah. Maybe I'd be even more fabulous, I don't know. But the kind of things like creams and all that stuff, no.
Got it.
Probably I come from a generation where that was not really what men did.
Yeah, I totally understand you, but I'm having the question I would want to ask you, but I want to return to that moment when you got into the fashion industry, because as I remember, you started from finance, you studied finance, and you studied business, and then somehow the fashion knocked into your door. And you started to you became a model. So yes. How did this journey start?
So I think it wasn't so much that fashion called me, it was the fact that something other than a normal job called me. Because my father was a businessman, he was a managing director. Probably if you asked me when I was a teenager, what I wanted to be was like him, right?
Oh, okay.
Suits, nice car, go to the office every day, be important. It seemed like he was really important. I looked up to him. He was, a charismatic person. He managed companies with, hundreds of millions of pounds, dollars, whatever business. But so my path was very much about, that was what I thought I would do until I did a business degree. And then I did a business degree and I went and worked, I did a couple of placements with big multinational companies where I just felt like this tiny little cog in a massive machine. Yeah. And you go in the office and this is the box and every day, same, in front of the computer, ninth, whatever. And at the end of it, I just thought,
not for you.
Yeah, I didn't have the awareness to really figure out what was going on. I just, in something inside me, was like, I don't feel comfortable here.
What happened then?
Well, I was very fortunate in that in the years before that, even before I went to university, people had come up to me and said, look, I'm a scout for an agent. You should contact this agency.
Just on the streets?
Well, the first time was in a pub in Manchester where my parents lived, and I sent a picture of me to an agency in Manchester, and they said, "You're too young."
How old
I
you
was 17. But back then, they didn't really do much stuff for kids and teenagers. Now it would be no problem. But back then, it was, I was a pretty boy. It didn't look like a man at all. I can understand this. So, you look too young. So then I went to university, and at university, I needed a haircut. I went to a hair salon, said I need a haircut. And they said, "Oh, would you like to be one of our models in the window? Because then, we need models like, the kind of Vidal Sassoons of this world. They're always looking for people to use as models, to cut the new styles, put it on the windows, and you get free haircut.
Yeah.
Forever, while you come here."
Yeah.
So I was like, "Oh, that sounds good." So they took me to London. We shot with a professional photographer, whole crew, makeup artists. And they were like looking at the pictures, "Dude, you should do this professionally." And I was like, I didn't believe I was good looking.
You didn't believe
No, I didn't really believe I was good
looking.
looking enough to make money from how I looked. I was okay, didn't really believe them. But then again, when I was in London working doing my placement of my degree, I was approached by an agent on King's Road who said, "Look, you should think about modeling. Here's my card, come and visit us."
Okay, that's interesting. So it happened after some time when you already had your internships and practices in the corporate world.
So by now, I was a student still,
Yeah.
but I had been working in the corporate world. So to me, it felt like, wow, this is my way out. I mean, I was slightly seduced because I knew nothing about it. Remember, back then, we didn't have all the internet. You can just Google modeling, careers, and you just had no idea. And certainly for men, I came from I was a privileged background, so I went to boarding school. It's just boys, outside the normal kind of world. TV, we didn't even watch TV. So I had no connection to fashion and modeling. This was like a world I knew nothing about. So it didn't feel like I had any interest in it, but it was a way out. And they made me believe that it was very easy to earn lots of money.
I got it, but that's a very good question. If you feel like it was worth it to exchange the modeling career for a career in finance.
Yeah, so at the time, the obvious thing with my business degree, a lot of guys would finish that degree and then go into, I probably wouldn't go into finance. I would have tried something like marketing for like a big multinational like Mars or Pepsi, this kind of company my dad worked for. Or maybe the other guys would go into consulting. Like consulting was where all the money was, management consultant, Accenture, all these companies. That was where the high flyers would go. But I just didn't buy into this corporate, selling your soul to a company and just giving everything for years and years and then being trapped in this. It felt like a trap. I didn't really, like I said, I couldn't express it. I just felt something didn't fit for me.
Yeah.
So when someone said, "Look, you could be your own boss, you could earn this money, you could travel the world, you could model in New York," I was like, "Yeah, that sounds more like my kind of thing."
You were seduced, basically.
Yeah, I was seduced. And what I thought I would do is I would go and do some modeling and like a nice chunk of money that I could live off for another year and then just go traveling around the world to discover what I really wanted to do.
Yeah. Do you remember, Hugo, the first time you saw yourself on the billboard? How was it? Was you proud?
I mean, it's kind of, you feel good, kind of weird as well, seeing yourself.
Why weird?
Well, it's just an odd feeling to suddenly see yourself at the beginning. After a bit, it's like, it's kind of cool. Because I get pictures, from friends. They can be, look, I'm in front of a shop and there's like your face and they're sticking their fingers in my nose.
Yeah.
Or, whatever, let's draw a moustache on my face.
Just a regular thing.
Yeah, it's amazing how people love that. It's just a picture of me, or a video of me on the TV commercial, whatever, and they get really excited. So it's kind of fun.
Have you seen, Hugo, just a recent movie with Demi Moore, The Substance? No. Well, this movie is actually about the beauty and about her as being a fitness trainer who is not in her 20s, let's put it in this way. And then, of course, she has the competition of the younger people and girls who are coming to take her place. So I wanted to know, did you had such situations when your role was taken by somebody else? Maybe, I don't know, because of the skills, because of the age, because of different stories. And would you go back into your 20s and would you sacrifice what you have right now in order to go back to those times?
To being young again, you mean?
Yes, basically.
I think for men it's very different experience to women. I mean, women in modeling are definitely threatened by other women. But my experience of men in modeling is we're more like, they're less competitive, strangely enough. Less competitive. It's like, dude, well done, mate. You've done that campaign. High five. It doesn't matter. It's just such a crazy thing to be doing that we're getting paid lots of money just to stand there and put some clothes on, that we're like, this is awesome. Oh, you got it. Oh, you get it. And then sometimes it's my turn to get the job. You know, it's not, and age is definitely not a thing that you're scared of. As I got older, I did much better jobs. And I got much more kind of respect from other models.
That's for sure. So you, if I understood correct, prove me if I'm wrong, you wouldn't go back to your 20s. You would rather stay right now in your... For sure.
The only thing that's challenging in the industry is that the choice of models that a lot of clients make, or photographers or art directors, whatever, doesn't reflect, certainly in fashion. In advertising, you know, if you want to sell a car, like I did an Audi thing, it's like a €200,000 car, you're not going to choose an 18-year-old guy to be the character for this. It makes sense to choose like an older guy. It could be, you know, the guy with the money, or they'll choose someone famous who everyone wants to be him because he's driving this car. They wouldn't choose 18. But in fashion, they still go to this 18, 19, 20-year-old because he, you know, the art director, photographer, someone in the whole pipeline thinks, oh, he's so cute and he's such a hot model right now, and they'll choose him. But that's not who the buyers want to see.
Yeah, I see. So there is
So there's still, it's challenging because as I got older, then there's a lot of people that, well, you know, he's too old to advertise for Burberry's or whatever, even though the people who are buying Burberry's are probably much more relate to me
for sure
than they would to the 18-year-olds.
I can see it as well. But you actually, Hugo, proved that the age is endless, and I want to know your opinion. How do you see this constant and permanent chase of this youngness, if I can say so, and when people do all of these artificial procedures to look younger, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I understand it because the whole of the fashion industry is, like I said, they'll be showing that youth and the beauty, and that's what people are used to seeing as the ultimate kind of top. And I think, yeah, like everyone else, I want to keep looking and feeling young to some degree. But what I don't miss from being young was the insecurity, the lack of confidence, the fear, all these other things that I was experiencing. The inner world was not as strong as, you know, maybe the outside was stronger and more perfect, whatever you want to call it, but definitely the inside was not.
What was something that triggered you or worried you inside of you? Had you had this situation when on the screen you looked like a $1 million character, but on the backstage you had emotional burnout, or financially you couldn't pay your rent, for example? Sure. Did you had that?
Yeah, many times.
How did you cope with that?
I think I just, somehow I managed to just keep going, because I'm not really proud of it, but there was one time when I was living in a squat. You know what a squat is? It's a building where no one's living and people break in and then they live there.
Ah, yes.
So a friend of mine, I was like kind of broke, and he said, oh, just come and stay with me. And I went to live with him in Camden, and there was just a squat. It was an empty building. We were sleeping on mattress on the floor. I did that for a few weeks. And he showed me some ways to find food for free and to earn a bit of money for, like, you know, funny ways and all this stuff. Just is like, my God, this is like living on the street, literally. Yeah. Because I hadn't been paid, you know, I was owed money, and I hadn't, you know, it might take 2 months before I get the money, so I couldn't afford, rent and stuff like that. But that's the world of being freelance. You have no security whatsoever.
Do you want to say that the modeling agencies and they didn't pay to you? And
No, it's not the modeling agencies, it's the clients usually.
It's the clients?
Yeah. I mean, I can name huge brands, mega rich brands that they rip me off completely.
So they just didn't literally pay for your work?
Well, the thing is that there's lots of people involved. It's like there's a lot of people putting their fingers in the pie, agents, photographers, production companies, whatever, and you're the bottom of the food chain.
Yeah, I see.
So it's not unusual it to take 6 months to get money from a client. And when you're just out of university and you have no money and you're doing little jobs because you're not a big model yet, so you might be doing jobs that only pay. I mean, I don't know how much you know about the industry, but...
Actually, I don't know much about the industry. That's why I wanted to know deeper, like what kind of problems does this industry has, and for example, what happened? What kind of money are we talking about? How much was the lowest and the highest amount that you got per day, for example?
Well, I think some of the issues with the industry are quite well documented. For example, this idea that you have to look a certain way, and especially for women, there's a lot of pressure. There's always been cases of, eating disorders and anorexia and all stuff because the agencies are people will be cruel. They go, you're so fat, you need to lose it, whatever. And there's like a beautiful girl that's just not fat, but you won't fit the clothes, so you need to fit this. And there's a lot of kind of smoke and mirrors, like make you sound like it's really fabulous and awesome. And maybe it is for 1% or 2% of the people, the Kate Mosses who get flown around, whatever. But for guys especially, it's one of the few industries where women get paid more than men. I can think of two, and one of them is modeling. So women would, I could do the same job as a girl on the same day, and she'll get 3 times what I get.
Really?
Yeah.
What are we talking about? What kind of money for the people who don't know about it?
So this is a long time ago, and there's no fixed rate, things change. But what I do know, for example, is that editorials, which is what magazine shoots. Again, now there's less magazine shoots, but imagine you were going to do Vogue or Condé Nast, like Vogue.
Yeah.
You think, wow, huge. That's got to be money, right? £50.
What?
£70, yeah. Maybe before commission.
You're
and then the
kidding.
agency takes 35% commission. So you're doing it more or less for free. And you're doing it so that you can get the pictures with a really good photographer in a known magazine and put it in your portfolio.
Wow.
So when you're a very young model, you will get lots of editorials because you might be more edgy, more interesting looking. You're not, you might get shoots with magazines, not get much more than £50.
I'm shocked, to be honest.
The highest editorial rate I've ever had was about £300 for the day.
£300 for the day. This is the highest amount.
Highest for editorials.
For editorials.
Yeah.
But what about in general? What was the campaign, for example?
Okay, so I'll give you another example. One of my earliest, biggest campaigns was for Emporio Armani. And what they did is they went around, did a tour around all the European cities, and they went to every agency. Oh, we're doing this Emporio Armani magazine, they called it. It was like you go into the shop and there's like a magazine, you can look, but it's really a catalogue. So in modeling, a catalogue had quite a high rate because it's like where you sold. Now you sell everything online. Before you sold it through the catalogue. So catalogues or brochures, it was quite good, but they would call it a magazine. So then they just paid you editorial rates. So I got paid about 70 euros, or at the time it was in lira, so it was about £70, to do a shoot for half a day for Emporio magazine, Armani magazine. And then suddenly I got messages from people saying, I've just seen you in Vogue. So what? Vogue? So look inside, and there's an advert in Vogue from that shoot, but it was supposed to be just a magazine. And then I got a call from someone in New York saying, I'm in Times Square, there's a poster, like 100 times size poster of you, like in Times Square in New York.
And they made it without your
they
notice?
didn't tell me, they didn't tell my agency. So of course we're like contacting them. Yeah. And eventually, they kind of said, oh yeah, well, we're going to pay you £2,000. And we're like, why is it so little? Yeah. And it's because a guy who ran an agency in Milan, he had organized the shoot. He was a production guy. He said, and the Italians take 50% commission on every job.
It's
I mean,
crazy.
they're all very dodgy. Sorry,
It's
Italians, I love you, but
crazy.
when it
No,
comes to
we've been
money,
honest here, yeah.
when it comes to money, they've always been a little, And
I'm
this was a
shocked.
case of, it should have been, but even if it was 100% of the money,
Yeah,
it was still shit.
I got
Excuse
it.
my language, for like posters, that kind of thing. If you'd done it for Calvin Klein through a proper agency and you were, Chrissy Turlington, that was like hundreds of thousands of dollars to be worldwide.
Yeah, I see.
Vogue, everything, it was all over the world. And I made, they took 50% what the fee was, this guy who did the production, and then my agency in London took a fee,
Yeah,
commission,
everybody took the
and I made like
piece of the
peanuts, and it
cake.
took 6 months to get that.
Wow.
So,
I saw that the music industry is quite difficult. I mean, all creative industries, right?
Yeah.
They are hard to be. That's why a lot of people sacrifice their lives and they go to work for corporate jobs, not being happy, but just having the stable life.
security versus insecurity. And also,
Exactly.
it's, I just say those stories because if anyone's ever listening and they want to be a model, just know that the reality is not what you see.
That shiny, yeah. That,
No, it's not necessary. Yeah, when it works, great. Honestly, amazing.
yeah.
And I have done jobs where I've earned literally tens of thousands of euros and I've worked for half a day.
I see, Hugo. Thank you for sharing.
But it takes a long time to get there.
Of course, every great achievements, I think, get in the difficult way to get there. But I want to ask you, what was the awkward or the most bizarre moments during your career? So the future models or current models can know about it as well.
Gosh, I mean, I have some funny stories. I don't know if I should say any names, but these are typical of things that happen to young people in the industry. I was in a nightclub in Paris. A guy comes up to me, says, "I'm a photographer. I really like to do pictures of you, like a test, whatever." And if you're a young model, you always want pictures. You need few pictures of a portfolio. And apparently, he was some kind of quite a big dude, like well-known guy. I didn't know the name, but it starts with a T. Anyway, and he basically said, "Come and see me." So, I went to see him, gave me a dress, and he said, "Do you mind getting undressed?" Yeah. I'm a guy. Imagine if you're a girl, and I've heard stories of things that happen to girls.
Yeah.
If you're with a man by yourself, it's different. I'm a man. I'm not scared of it, right?
How did you end up the situation? This industry, is having so much stories about assaultancy, sexual abuse and everything. And
He was also a genuine photographer. He showed me a pile of prints of guys that he'd shot naked. So he generally was wanting to shoot naked men, but he was also...
Yeah, but he was ready for more, maybe.
But maybe.
Okay, and what did you say?
So at this point, he kind of showed me pictures of like some models that I knew were really big, and they were there kind of like naked, usually cropped from here. So I was like, okay. So I'm like, strip off, and then he's like, wow, you got a nice cock. So yeah, I was young, this is kind of awkward. This is awkward, there's no one else there. This kind of thing is... nowadays, that would be so uncool.
Okay, so have you ever experienced any other situations when you was tried to be seduced or used in a bad way?
Yeah, well, like I said, I think being male,
yeah,
is a big advantage because if you try and mess with me, I can fight back, right?
I'm sure you do.
And I never had to. I'm very peaceful. But you don't know that. I mean, like I'm... relatively big and strong, so it's not like you can physically intimidate me. But I think that kind of thing is a little bit pushing the boundaries. Mm-hmm. What you should say is like, I really like to do this. Do nudes. I'm doing a book on nudes. Would you be comfortable? If you want to bring a friend or someone to be there, the chaperone, or tell your agent something just to make it really safe. But this kind of safe thing that was out of control back then, and this kind of thing happened.
Okay, thank you for sharing, because it's something not everybody is speaking about, or the ones who speak, they've been bullied, or threatened or whatever. So
yeah,
not only happens with a woman,
no,
if I understood correct, in this industry.
Definitely not.
Covering this topic, are there any brands that you still would love to work with?
I mean, I'm quite, what's the word? I joke a little bit now because I've been doing this so long that it doesn't have the same significance for me as when you're young. You really want to do the big magazines and the top things. I don't. So I just joke that I sell my body for money. You pay me, you just have my body. So I don't really care what the brand is in that sense. If you're looking after me properly and pay me properly, whatever, then we do a great job and do something cool. In my experience, the really high-profile brands are the worst payers.
So you would rather work with maybe small, unknown local brands who pays more rather than with the big, well-known
don't get me
ones.
wrong. If some really, really cool, fashion label said, we want to shoot you, of course, that's delightful because I'll get some nice pictures for my book.
Yeah.
But they'll do it knowing that they probably won't pay me what other people might pay me. And I've been so long in this industry that now it's, I don't know how long, for the last 10 years probably, I've been like, I can't believe I'm still doing this. I can't believe they're still paying me to do this. So I'm kind of feeling like it's going to end any minute. So I'm not thinking, this is going to be really good for my career to do, I don't know, think of a brand, insert the name of a cool brand, big brand. I don't really care because I'm not thinking that, this is going to improve my profile because I'm in such a niche area, being my age, that I don't think those things really matter too much.
Yeah, I see.
I mean, I have done, Giorgio. I could give you a list of good names of brands that I've worked for.
I saw that you worked for Hugo Boss, for Armani, for a lot of brands, because even back in Kiev, in Ukraine, I was like, such an interesting campaign. And then when I came to London, I saw you because you are a DJ as well, you're a fitness coach, you're a triathlon coach, you are a very talented person. I was like, wow, okay, is it him? And yeah, so you're all over the world working with the different campaigns and global companies. That's why I was interested if there is any left that you are still
I'm sure there's loads. But to be honest, the more exciting stuff for me is TV commercials.
TV commercials. Yeah. Yes, because you're an actor as well.
So it's just a whole different challenge.
Yeah.
If you would just want me to pose in front of the camera wearing a nice suit, it's like,
boring,
I can do it with my eyes closed.
Got it. Thank you.
So, yeah.
As I said, you've been a model, an actor, a DJ, a triathlon and fitness coach. You are the father, the husband, and the son. Which of those roles are still unfinished? And which ones shaped you the most?
Well, some of those things you mentioned were very temporary because I'm one of these people that when I get into something for a certain amount of time, I dive quite deep. So because I was into fitness or whatever, I thought, well, I'll become a qualified fitness coach. And I did a little bit, thought, maybe in this format, it's not for me and I'll keep doing the modeling and other things were happening. The triathlon, I became a coach because I actually was racing in triathlons. So I raced quite high level. I was really obsessed with it to the point that, I qualified for the GB team for world championships, things like this, which is not actually that hard. It's not as good as it sounds.
No,
but it was, like for me, it was like quite a good thing. But the cost of that was that I was training a lot and I was very focused on it. But I was also a dad and a husband. And my now ex-partner didn't like it very much. She's what we called a triathlon widow.
Triathlon widow?
A triathlon widow is when you lose your husband to triathlon because you just want to race and you're obsessed and you're checking, training all the time. So as when she kind of complained about how much I was putting energy into this, as to show her that it wasn't just all take, I became a race director for the triathlon camp. So I started putting on triathlons and getting paid to put on events, and like manage a team of 50 people, have 500 races. It was quite a big thing. And I also got qualified as a triathlon coach to say, look, now I can maybe also earn some money from it, not just spend money on it. So that's what I did. It didn't make any difference. It was too late.
I see. But I'm interested, you mentioned about the widow triathlon, right?
Yeah, it's just a joke.
Yeah,
it's
of
just
course.
a joke.
But I want to know how the modeling career influenced your marriage and your family.
I think for most people, it's very hard to be in a relationship with a model.
How was it in your case?
Because if you have a 9-to-5 job and you know what you're earning and you know where you're going to be, and then you're this person who's like, I didn't make any money this month, but then next month, I just got quite a good money, and then not any more money, and then I'm going on to California next week for a week, and who's going to look after the kids?
Yeah.
You know, it's very insecure, very unpredictable. You have to really be able to live with uncertainty.
Would you rather prefer to have the partner from creative industry, or like more grounded, so you can like balance in between? And what did you sacrifice to be in this fashion world? Because it seems like there is a lot of
like I said, the cost was that lifestyle makes a lot of people uncomfortable, and possibly depends on how secure a relationship is. They may feel threatened as well, because they think, you're going to be surrounded by beautiful women all the time, and they might find that threatening as well.
I got it. It's not easy for every family, for sure. But I believe that if you're truly doing what you love, you can compromise on different things. Okay, Hugo, tell me please, which moment of your life shifted something deep in you? Something as a man, as a son, as a human?
Well, the most obvious one first is becoming a father. You just can't go back from that.
How does it feel like?
Yeah, good question. I think maybe being quite sort of typical man who grew up in a culture that doesn't express emotion and all that very much, is this sense of unconditional love. To be, giving unconditional love and receiving unconditional love. That's probably the most powerful thing about becoming a father.
Okay, Hugo.
If that makes any sense.
For me, I still do not have kids, but I'm sure one day I could feel this unconditional love. But I want to ask you, when was the last time you cried, and why?
God, it's not easy to remember this kind of stuff. I probably cry quite often. I think in the last 10 years, probably it's not that uncommon, because I don't really feel any embarrassment about it anymore. Maybe when you're a typical English guy, young, definitely crying is not cool. But when you get older and you just totally, more comfortable with that. And I think it's probably in moments of very deep intimacy with someone, when you're sharing feelings, or...
What are the reasons, like,
well, it could be
occasions as
it's
well?
not even, it doesn't necessarily have to be a sad thing. Usually for me, it's not necessarily sad. It's not like, oh my God, I've lost all my money, and like I just burst into tears. It's more if you're in it's a relationship thing.
Yeah.
When you're in some kind of strong, intimate moment and you're sharing from the heart how you feel. It might be that you're expressing your love or something that you really appreciate. That's what's happened for me. Or sharing a story of where you were, maybe something very deeply challenging or painful happened, and you're sharing from the heart. That's when I would cry.
Okay, and at this point, to be honest, I don't know how to ask about it, honestly. I don't know how to think about it and how does it feel.
Yeah.
But I know that recently you lost your mother and you went through the process of euthanasia in Switzerland.
Yeah.
So if you would allow, I would want to talk about it. So a lot of people could understand how they should prepare How does it feel? Because the death is such a sudden event that usually happens. But I want to know you as a human, as a soul. What did you go through when you decided to make this procedure? How was that?
So, to answer your question from earlier, I have cried recently because my mum passed away about a month ago. And there was quite a lot of tears during that whole process. And afterwards, sharing with other people what happened. Because what happened was she was diagnosed with motor neuron disease. There's no cure. It can finish you off pretty fast. And it's painful in the sense that she was losing the use of her mouth and tongue, so she couldn't swallow properly. She couldn't eat properly. She couldn't drink properly. She couldn't talk properly. And soon she wouldn't be able to breathe properly. And then she had to put a tube here to inject fluid. So it's ugly, it's not and she was 85 and she decided, I don't want to drag this out for myself or for anybody else. She was being selfless as well. She was being very brave to decide that she wanted to, do the assisted suicide approach, which you can't do in the UK. It's not legal yet. And she was very brave and very selfless, and she knew that if she just stayed with this, it could drag on for months and months, watching her disintegrate, not being able to talk with people.
It was her decision.
Yeah, it has to be her decision. No one can decide for her, and that's why it's illegal in this country, is because they think it's too easy to manipulate people.
Yeah.
But in other countries, it's legal. So she chose to go and do this in Switzerland.
You went with her, right?
Yes.
What did you had in your soul and in your brain, and how did you prepare yourself for this procedure when you just understanding that you're gonna literally watch the process of death of your dearest person? How to prepare for that mentally?
Well, I don't know how you prepare for it, except that I just came from love, If I loved her, my mum, and respected her decision. I understood her decision why she would do it. Of course, you don't want someone that you love to decide to die, but she was going to die anyway. And I think being older, I personally feel like I'm more at peace with the idea of death. And it makes, when someone close to you is going to die, it makes you think about your own death, your own mortality. So I'm like thinking, oh, what about if I was like that? If it was me, how would I feel? I wouldn't want to suffer unnecessarily if I've no more life.
Yeah.
I wouldn't drag it out, and I would probably want to do the same thing.
You're serious?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I could always try and put myself in her place and how I would feel, and I could say, I get it. So I don't want her to suffer. So even though it's saying goodbye, then I guess myself, my sister, my brother, whatever, and her partner chose as much as possible to honor her in her choice, support her, make her feel, use that chance to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Which you don't always get a chance to say goodbye.
Exactly. That's why I think it's such a special event, moment, when you can tell, when you can, I don't know, say something, feel something that not every person can do because of suddency. What was the moment or the words or the emotions that you've had at that day, at that moment, that you're carrying with yourself now, and that maybe changed your life and perception of life in general?
I don't know if anything changed at that moment. Maybe it will come clear to me later if there was some changes in me. But it's the first time I witnessed someone die, for example. And I don't know if that would change anything for me immediately, but I think what it did too, possibly, is in that moment, for one second she's there, sitting where you are, and I'm holding her hand, and she's alive, and then a few seconds later, she's dead.
You're pressing the button and you...
She presses, so it's assisted suicide, she has to do it. And because she couldn't swallow, normally you swallow the medicine, she couldn't, so they put it in a system where you have a syringe, and it's automated, and they have cannula going into your thing, and when you're ready, you press the button, and it pushes the syringe, in goes the drug.
So you're literally seeing how,
so she's sitting in a chair like me, and I'm holding her hand, I'm sitting where you are, and they go to her, okay, whenever you're ready, and she says, I'm ready. She pressed the button. So back.
What was the last words you told her? Or
well, we were just saying we love you. You know, both me and my sister, whatever. There, and I was holding her hand, saying I love you. And she's from 1 minute she's alive. And then there's a bit of a physical reaction as the medicine hits her system. It's very strong, and then in 30 seconds she's gone. And you could see this change from like a spirit alive thing to like just an inert body. And I suppose at that moment it kind of reinforced this idea in my head that there is a soul, there is a spirit, because how could this aliveness be there and then gone? You know, where would it be gone? It's not just, you can't just vanish. Whatever it is that makes you and me alive and able to talk and move and all this stuff, and every living creature is a pretty powerful thing, right? If you think about it, you're like, it's miraculous, and then it's gone. So you're like, wow, she's still here in some form. There's that energy still out there in the universe, but this body is now, it's left this body.
Ooh,
it was very powerful moments,
It's such a deep story. I truly honor that you shared it. And because, you know, it's like the process of samsara. Like our parents are leaving this planet and we just have to keep going through it. And it's just the way how the life is created. And the grief, it's such a powerful thing. How do you cope with that? How did you breathe through the griefness, and how do you feel like right now?
Well, I think that the whole process of how it happened helped me not feel stricken with grief, because we talked about it when she was diagnosed. She already said, look, if I'm gonna, you know, even when I was young, she talked about euthanasia. But I didn't really think about it. I thought she'd last much longer. And then when she finally got this disease, we talked about it. We had lots of conversations she did with her partner, and then she talked to me and whatever. And we kept on talking about it for 3-4 months until it happened. And we even, spent 3 days together in Zurich where she did this procedure, and we did, we had chances to just, say what we needed to say. I created a ceremony where we all sat together, and we went around the table, and I tied everyone together with a ribbon, like a thread.
I see.
Tied us all together. And
this
said,
is your family. This is your family bracelet?
No, I did it for my mum. This kind of represents my mum, because she was there, and we sat around the table, and I got this thread and I put it around all the table, and then we cut it and tied, and then I put a candle in the middle and lit it and said, "This is your light, Mum." And then each of us get a candle and we can light it and take your light with us. So try to create a ritual, and then we went around the table, each of us saying whatever we felt to say, to feel complete. I love you, or you've done, you did an incredible job. You were amazing. You had an amazing life. Now you can go. You're free to go. Feel free. And then my sister had her things to say, and my brother, and like that. So the next morning, we had the procedure. We all felt kind of at peace. There was nothing left.
You was prepared, yes.
And I think that's a really beautiful way. Most of the time, it's like, you get a call. The father's passed away, or your something's ended. And there's no completion, there's no chance to, you have to do it somehow internally yourself. Here, I was given the opportunity to have these conversations and be with her till the end, and see how she was choosing it.
Yeah.
That there's nothing to be,
Nothing to be scared of.
Nothing to be traumatized by. It's like, that's life, the cycle of life and death, and she chose to do it in a very dignified way, courageous way. So I feel kind of complete. I don't feel full of grief.
I see. I truly appreciate sharing it, because it's very intimate and deep.
Yes.
Okay. Hugo, let's speak about your next 10 years. Do you have a vision how it would look like, and what about the retirement? Or you still want to go till the end with modeling or with DJing or with triathlon or something else?
Well, the modeling is interesting because I don't put a huge amount of energy into it now. I'm kind of at this point where I suppose in business terms it's like kind of think of it as a cash cow. You know,
Yeah.
you just basically, someone's paying me a lot of money to do this thing, fine. I don't get, I don't spend a lot of time, energy on it every day, thinking about it. So even in 10 years, in 20 years, if someone wants me to stand in front of the camera or video and pay me, why not? I mean,
Yeah.
it's easy in that respect. So I don't see that that's ever going to go away unless all my hair falls out or I smash my face, fall flat on my face, whatever. So as long as people are crazy enough to want to pay me, fine, just ring it on,
I love that.
Why not?
Love that.
And the whole population is getting older.
Yeah.
The whole way the population is built is top heavy now. There's going to be less young people, more old people. We live longer. All this stuff. The bubble is, this population is decreasing. So I'm representing a big part of the population. So in theory, there should be still jobs. In theory, but we don't know if that works that way.
We're gonna see, but I'm sure your beauty is ageless. I truly believe it, so you're right completely. If there is a chance, why not? And by the way, I want to ask you, they always say never ask a lady about her age.
Okay.
Is there something I can ask you as a gentleman, or do you think it's inappropriate to ask?
Well, what I do when people ask my age, because I get asked a lot, is like, so what do you think?
Well...
and there's no wrong answer. And if you say something really... Like, I won't be offended by whatever you say. I'm just curious to know.
I just know how old you are.
Oh, you already
know.
So,
yeah.
Oh,
it's
damn.
not gonna work.
Anyone else want to have a guess? Yeah, so I'm 59.
59?
Yeah, 60 in September. I'm having a big birthday party in September. I'm going to Burning Man.
Guys, can you believe how the person can look at his 59 years old? That's why eating healthy, doing sport, triathlon, being the soul, exploring and traveling this world, I think this is what's...
Yeah, so I have this idea that I learned somewhere along the line that childlike thinking is a good way to think, to live. It's thinking like you live like a child. Yeah. It's about fun, exploring. There's no right or wrong. It's more, what happens if I do that and that? And it's as opposed to, a lot of people, their thinking is very much defensive and secure and trying to be safe. And I guess, I'm like every other human being. I also have that too. But when I remember to think about it and be conscious, I try and think more about the playful nature, the adventurous nature.
Talking about adventures, you are quite spiritual and wisdom person. You've been at Tony Robbins and Joe Dispenza seminars and events. Yeah. Do you remember the first time when you went there, and what has changed you at those places since then?
Yeah, so I remember doing my first Tony Robbins event.
When was it?
2012.
2012, okay.
So I was getting divorced. And, life was if you imagine my life was like on the train lines, it's very straight. You know exactly where you're going on the train. There's no deviation. Yeah. So my life felt like that. And I felt like I was derailed. Like I'd gone off the rail, totally derailed. I didn't know what was going to happen. Yeah. Right? So Tony, a friend of mine said, I've just done Tony Robbins, Unleash the Power Within. Why don't you do it? I'll pay for you to do it.
Even like that?
Yeah. And in the end, he didn't pay for me to do it, but I paid for it. But I did it in London. And it was, it was perfect timing because my whole life had changed and I had to redesign everything.
How did it change? What was the, methods? So I will understand. And
So
people who are
if you think, you know, family man, house in the suburbs, 2 children, car, you know, like everything's kind of, this is your life, you know, that's it. And then everything was taken away. So I still had my kids, but I wasn't living with them. I didn't have the house, didn't have a wife. And that question caused a lot of questions to myself, like, who am I that this has happened to me?
Yeah.
What kind of person who, you know, like, I can't even keep my family together? Well, there's lots of very, very difficult, challenging questions. And the state of mind was right down there. I was very low.
What did you feel and what helped you to get back, you know, to the state of mind?
So I don't know if you've ever, you know, seen any of Tony Robbins, whatever. He's a very powerful character.
He's doing right now the online.
He's doing an online thing.
Yes.
And if you've never worked with him, you know, and you're English, you're like, he can make you cringe a little bit because it's lots of sales, lots of American, loud and big and brash and not refined British, you know, understated. You don't go around shouting, screaming. Yeah. So it's a bit, you know, if you go look beyond that, he has lots of amazing material and lots of amazing content, and he's an incredible coach. But all those events, in my experience, it always really depends what's happening in your life. So whatever I got out of it, if you go and do it, you get a completely different thing. Because your life isn't different. But in my particular moment, in that moment of my life, and I was going through a divorce, it made me believe that it was going to be okay. Because when, you know, you've been married and that falls apart, you think your whole life is over.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought my life was over in many ways. I'd leave my house, my family, and the woman that was supposed to love me was with someone else. So I didn't feel good about myself, that I was lovable or anything like this. And he just, you know, some of the stuff he talked about just convinced me it's going to be okay.
Do you remember that stuff, or do you suggest to read any book or watch something?
Well, I think all this stuff is great, but like I said, it really depends what's happening in your life.
Yeah, so there is no
But there's a lot of stuff in there. He packs it full of really interesting stuff, all his courses. The one that I love the most is called Day with Destiny, which is 6 days. And this is really interesting because you really get to look inside and decide what your values are.
Yeah.
Not the ones that your parents gave you or the country you come from or that was conditioned into you, like brainwashed into you at church or something. It's like what really, really matters to you. Yeah. What's really important to you. Yeah. And then you sit down and say, okay, so given that love and connection is, you know, my top value and, you know, health and well-being is my next big value, then what am I going to do in my life that aligns with that? Yeah. And that's his kind of, you know, maybe a recipe for happiness.
Got it.
When the values and the life align.
Coming together. But I remember you told me you've tried the tantric dances as well.
I've done some tantra, yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? Did it open something inside of you that right now you interact with people differently on emotional level, sexual level, and just in general on your life?
Yeah, so I think from 2012, when I did that Tony Robbins, I just then went through a whole period of doing lots of different things. And I suppose it's not uncommon for me in my life to go through big changes. In many ways, I would say I've had quite a few different lives. Yeah, and that's just me. Yeah. And some people call me a shapeshifter.
Shapeshifter?
Yeah, like a magician, like the superhero who can shift from one shape to another shape. Yeah. Or in the spirit world, there can be shapeshifters, might be a human and then they can turn into an animal or whatever. So my friends who are quite spiritual jokes that I'm a shapeshifter. Because 1 minute I'm this and then next time I can be this.
So who are you like this?
So back then I was like the dad, you know, who took the kids to school, and then suddenly I'm like, you know, a Burning Man, and I'm like, you know, got long hair, like a beard, and I never had this before. And then I'm like, you know, dancing like crazy, wearing crazy clothes and makeup and stuff in the middle of the desert, and you know, this kind of stuff.
Hugo, I totally understand you. I totally understand you because right now I'm combining two different versions of myself. The one is working in venture capital fund,
Yeah.
being like a serious business lady, following the deadlines and stuff like that. And you know, I'm also a DJ. Yeah, I'm playing during the nights in membership clubs in London places. Then I'm also into sport, which is also a little bit contradict to what people think about the DJs or musicians.
Yeah.
So I love to combine it. This is what makes me happy, that one day I can choose to be this role and another day absolutely another one.
Yeah. So that 2012 around then, that was a chance to do
Yeah.
completely shift. And it was painful time, but also super exciting time. And I did get into, exploring all kinds of different things. And after being with one woman for 12 years, then I went and explored.
12 years in marriage.
12 years together, 10 years married.
Okay, 22 years together.
No, 10 years married, but together 12 years. And we
okay.
married, because we got married quite soon. Okay. So then, and before that, I had also been in a long-term relationship. So then...
For how long?
Actually, it wasn't that long. No, because I'd been married twice.
Okay.
Yeah. For marriage, it was not long. It was just a few years. But yeah, so then I'm kind of like a late developer. So in my late 40s, really, is when I started exploring a lot of things.
I see.
So that's one message I would say to Tony, don't worry about your age. Just, there's only now. Like right now, if that's something that interests you, doesn't matter your age, just go and explore.
There is only now. Yeah. There is also my phrase that there is only now and the time is now.
Yeah.
I want to come back to your feelings in terms of how do you understand that you're in love? What is love? And how did you feel that you are truly into somebody?
Whew, that's a tricky one. I think for a long time I didn't really trust my feelings to, I was always doubting myself. So I thought I was, maybe in love, but I wasn't sure what it's supposed to feel like, and I was never certain. And this is, in those moments, I really wish I was one of those people who just knows something. Like they're so definite and clear, and I'm just not that kind of person. I'm very gray. I have lots of very gray areas with me, which makes some things tricky, because you ask me about, what's your favorite this and that. And so some people are like, my favorite book is this, my favorite food is this.
Not with me.
No, not with me either.
I'm explorer.
So love. I don't know what it was, but I seem to attract women, certainly when I was younger, that really wanted to be with me. Like, so the first time I was married, she asked me to marry her. She was older.
She asked you to marry her.
If you left it to me, I probably would go through all life and not getting married ever, and I'd be married twice.
Why did you agree then?
Well, because I thought...
You fall in love, or?
Well, I thought there was love, and there was love, but I didn't really understand fully. My background, there's no conversations about love. There's no conversations about sex.
Yeah.
There's no conversation about relationship. There's no learnings or models. My own family were the only role model, and actually there was a lot of stuff underneath the surface that wasn't spoken that probably had an impact, because my father was gay, and had lovers.
Back then, it was an undiscovered story for the society, so I can imagine.
Yes, well, it was in that time in the UK, would have been, you go to prison for homosexuality in the 60s. Yeah.
How did you feel about that?
Well, I only discovered about that much later, and I was fine. I think he was more stressed about telling me than I was about learning.
How was it?
I kind of was,
How did you perceive it? And
I think somewhere deep down, kids, they know things without really being able to articulate it. It's not a conscious thing, they're just feeling. So when he told me, I didn't feel shocked. But
did it happen when you was a really young age, or you was already mature?
No, he told me when I was in my 30s.
Okay, in your 30s.
Yeah, because, before then it would have been crazy probably to tell his young kids, because it was illegal.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had to keep it secret.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, you couldn't even be overtly gay in any way back then.
How did you react on that? I mean, are you right now in good...
Well, he's passed away, but
I'm sorry.
No, we actually, in a way, it deepened our connection because I accepted him. Mm-hmm. And I think, other people didn't react so well. But my mum knew for a long time, but she had to live with that.
And she didn't want to discover it for you as well?
No, she basically... The reason he told me was I was traveling. I just got divorced the first time. And I'd read this book called Manhood. Manhood? Yeah, by an Australian writer, and it was talking about the relationship between men and the sons and the fathers, and how often it's very broken and needs to kind of, it's talking about... It's a very interesting book. And I read this and I kind of wrote to him and I said, I was in Australia and I said, we should try and connect more. And he saw that as an opening to finally tell me who he was. So when I came back to England, he said, when you're coming to see me, whatever. I went to see him and he was very nervous and sat down at a table with my mum. I'm like, what's going on here? He said, I have to tell you something. And I'm like, okay. And then he goes, okay, Helena, you tell him. He couldn't bring himself to say. So then she told me this story, about my dad, and told me, that. Okay,
and that's also a very interesting story I didn't expect to hear, but that's powerful. And in your industry, in the fashion world, there is more traditional man or the gay man?
I mean, I couldn't tell you what it is now, because to be honest, I don't interact much with from the industry. Like I said, I have agencies and every now and then, can you do this casting tomorrow? Can you do this job tomorrow? Boom, I just go. I don't really hang out with anyone.
I see.
So maybe in my 20s, for sure, it seemed there was a high percentage of, gay, queer people, whatever, because it was, kind of like a creative industry. Often they're there, or they used to be. And I think that's what influenced, like I said, who got chosen, because they would choose by, if you're a really famous photographer, like the one that did pictures of me naked, he gets to choose, who is going to shoot the campaign. Is that big that when Etro or Armani, whatever, wants to shoot the campaign, they can propose people. You go, no, I like this guy. I see. So they had they used to have a huge influence. I don't know now. I think things in the corporate world on a high level is much more, there's more decision makers and it's much more, less down to one person's choice, maybe.
I see.
I don't know.
Okay. We're going to have a set of, I would say, closing questions, the ones that truly interest me. Hugo wants to know what is the purpose of your life and mission, if you have so.
Yeah, I haven't really articulated this kind of thing much recently. So where I would go back to was something I created back, maybe 10 years ago, which was that the purpose of my life was to be the spirit of love and adventure, and to laugh and play and to make a difference wherever I went. So, and I don't always remember this. Sometimes I forgot. Sometimes I'm waking up and I'm wrong side of bed. I wake up and my mission that day is definitely not to be love or adventure or, make a difference. I'm grumpy, just like every other human being. But sometimes when I remember and I remind myself, that's how I would go into different moments, different experiences in life. That this is an adventure, and I'm the spirit of love and adventure. So everything is more playful, and it's much more about connection, and much more about how can I make a mark on this situation, on this moment.
Nice. Speaking about the connection, what does soulmate reflects you? Do you have a soulmate in your life?
I don't really believe in soulmate.
Explain, please, why.
So I think it's very romantic notion that people have that someone out there is just the right one for me, and when I meet him, boom, stars will.
But it shouldn't be just about romantic.
No, but it's quite a romantic concept. In my experience, this is like movies and so on. The whole story. I think love is not only because it's you. Like I can love you massively. I can love you. It's not just I'll only love really amazingly this person.
Yeah.
So either you love or you don't, and then you can and how much you commit to the relationship and to immerse yourself in it is a choice.
I understand you, but for me, the soulmates, it's not only about romantic stuff. Soulmate for me is the one who can enter your life, can be your teacher, and your life passes will separate. It's the one who you can just sit, you look into the eyes, you might do not know this person, but you have a feeling you know this person. And when you start to speak, okay, so it doesn't mean that you need to have romantic relations or
So you're
whatever.
saying there's many soulmates?
It could be not many, could be many, but it's a special feeling that you have. And that's why I'm asking every guest, how do they understand this word? Because everybody has different.
So my understanding of soulmate comes from this romantic idea that you can't find a good relationship or whatever, but there's one person, and then when you find them, everything's going to be great. And that's not how I believe relationships are. I think because we're human, for sure, there's certain people that there might be reasons why you click more easily, or you might feel something, and you're not even conscious of what it is.
Yeah.
And I understand this idea of looking in someone's eyes and feel like you know them, or whatever, you have some special connection. But I think most of the biggest factor in any relationship of any deep connection comes from my choice to be that, make that happen, make it be that way. This comes from within me.
Powerful. Okay. And what is the one book that changed your life?
This one thing again.
Okay, you can choose top three.
Yeah, oh my God. Pressure.
I remember, it's quite hard one.
The reason it's hard is because it all happens at different times.
Yeah.
So maybe the biggest thing at one point would have been my, marketing manual when I was doing my degree.
Yeah.
Or your book on venture capitalists. But I think it was probably in the recent years, it would have been Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, which is and I know the cover and everything. I'm just so bad at remembering titles.
We can put it.
Yeah, you can put it in the
afterwards.
reference, but it blew my mind in terms of, he talks about the neuroscience and epigenetics, and I'd been around people who talked about energy and manifesting and all this stuff, and it sounded very, for want of better words, hippie or woo-woo.
Artificial, yeah.
Yeah, you're like, but that sounds nice, but I don't. And then he puts it in a way that's very, some science, it feels more real somehow. And then I can okay, I can get this. But if this is really what's happening, the implications are massive.
Yeah, this is what I also believe, that every concept or every information should be scientifically proved about the awareness, spirituality and stuff like that. I don't like just fluffy spirituality, rituals and methods. I want to understand how it does it work with my brain, or who've done it already. I need this ground.
Yeah, some people
I cannot just believe in.
Some people don't. But for me, what he wrote and the way he talks and the way he speaks about this stuff resonates with me, and I get it.
With me as well.
Yeah.
I loved him.
That would be, I read that. That was 2019, maybe. I ruptured my ACL ligament, my knee, and I wanted to find other ways to heal apart from just having surgery. And quite a few people I'd met doing Tony Robbins events, because I did 2 or 3 years of just like all the Tony Robbins things, again, like all of them. And I met lots of people who are very, very deeply into just self-development and courses, and we call them course junkies. You know, you're always on some course. I was a bit of a course junkie, and I just remember they always talked about this Dr. Joe, but all they did was meditate. I'm like, I'm not sure that I want to just spend a week meditating, but I read his book and I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah, this stuff is something else.
Hugo, if you would have £1 billion right now, how would you spend it in one single day?
Well, I'd probably give most of it away.
Where? To whom? Why?
It'd be challenging to decide where to put it, but it'd be, you know, charities and feeding the world or something like that. I don't need that much money.
Okay. When you die, what do you want to be remembered for?
I don't think it really matters. When you're gone,
Nothing is matter.
I don't feel like I have to leave a legacy. Some people, it's really important, and that informs their life. Like everything they're doing is so that someone, when they're gone, will think he did this, whatever. I don't have that. I don't have that particular strong urge. I just trying to live my life the best that I can. And I sort of, you know, probably beat myself up a long time ago for being a model that's like not changing the world, not doing anything that's really that important at all. But we can't all be that person. You can't all be the superhero who's going to save the world and change everything. So once I accept it, okay, maybe that's just not my path, you know. I'm just doing the best that I can for me, and when I get to the end, that'll be fine. I don't really need to be remembered for anything.
You have your own path.
Yeah.
Your own way in your own life. And only you can decide what you want from it. And if this chapter of your life had a title, how would you call it?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because I feel right now I'm a little bit of in a lull. Do you know that well? It's like static. Everything is just a little bit static. It's not a dynamic moment where everything's
neutral kind of, right?
Yeah, it's like the quiet before the storm. I don't know.
Quiet before the storm.
Maybe that's what it is. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you don't know what's going to happen next. It could be a big storm, it might not. But right now it's kind of like in quite a quiet, calm space.
But you're always prepared for the storm.
Well, I'm not sure I'll be prepared, but I know from life there'll be something. Something will happen.
Hugo, thank you very much.
No, thank you.
What would you wish to our followers and the ones who see the podcast? What do you want them to hear, to feel from this episode?
Well, I just hope they, I don't know who they are. I don't know what's going on in their life. So I can't, project anything specific, but I hope they find it interesting, or there's something in there that is of value for them.
Thank you very much. It was profound and powerful. I thank you that you opened yourself and shared your backstage of your life. And as we can see, the image has the powerful story behind always.
Yeah.
We have to remember about it. Thank you.
Thank you.